So we're here today. Good afternoon. We're here with Dr. Colin Elkin, and I want to talk a little bit about Dr. Elkin for just a moment. And Dr. Elkin is an amazing chiropractor. He's got an incredible story, and I'm going to ask him about his story in just a couple minutes. But he was really led into this profession, and then he was cemented into this profession by experiences that he's had. And I've been close enough to this young man where he shared some of these stories with me. And not that he doesn't share them with other people, but he's just an amazing individual with a beautiful family. He's a recent grandfather. We got to know each other at the Max Living seminars a few years ago, and we hit it off really, really well. So I'm Dr. Neil Cohen, and I want to introduce you to Dr. Colin Elkin. Say hi to everybody, Dr. Elkin.
Well, first of all, thanks for the great introduction, Neil. And I'm really honored in the fact that you call me a young man because I think we're not too far apart in age. So I think that's awesome. I have to say, and one thing, when we first met, we truly resonated because your core values, I feel, are my core values too. I love people, I love God, and I love chiropractic. I mean, they're my three passions. And my wife and I mean, I think this was obviously a God thing. I go way back to the time when I was in university and school, and I went to the university I went to here in Canada, University of Guelph, to play football. Believe it or not, I was actually a linebacker. I got moved to lineman, and I was one of the only guys on the team that could actually snap the ball long. So I got moved to center. And so when you're playing center in university football, if you're, under 250 pounds, you're a lightweight. Like, you're going to get knocked over. So I had to gain as much weight as possible. So I was in the gym all the time and I was eating. Part of my training routine was going to Mountain Pizza at least 3 days a week for an 8 slice pizza. That was part of the training routine. So, but it's funny how things turn out because I actually wanted to go to teachers college. And so, long story short, I didn't get into teachers. I had great marks coming out of university. I didn't get into teachers college, and I only applied to one, but there was a long lineup to go to that specific teachers college. So I just thought that was my fate, and it turned out through some friends who actually were driving to Chicago to see the National College of Chiropractic. I thought, oh, I like Chicago, I'll go. And as I was walking through the National College of Chiropractic, I knew right then this is where I wanted to go. So I ended up starting at school there, did 1 year in Chicago. I transferred back to Canada because at the time the Canadian dollar was so weak. It was costing, a time and a half to go to chiropractic school in the States. So I transferred back to CMCC, which is where I met my wife. So we started dating, and sure enough, here we are 33 years later, 34 years later. So it's quite amazing how God works that way. But here's the thing is that so we had a practice. We had a great practice together. We grew a very busy practice in Canada. We went to all the same seminars that you did, DE, and I fell in love with Jim Sigafus, and he was a big mentor of mine and helped us really define who we were and who we were serving in our philosophy. And we just built our practice on that. We got involved in Body by God and Max Living at the time. We put some systems in place, and we're fortunate enough to see a huge number of people. I mean, we are seeing well over 1,000 people, 1,200 people a week for a long time, and making more money than we knew what to do with. So it was, there was abundance in life. We had four beautiful boys, and so it came to the time in 2022 where I had an associate who actually was a patient when he was a young teenager, got inspired to be a chiropractor. Things go full circle. He ended up working with us as an associate after he graduated, and then bought our practice in 2022. So since 2022, Kim and I have been out of practice. And frankly, I was lost. I was so
Mm,
lost. When you can take the chiropractor out of the office, but you can't take the office out of the chiropractor. So
mhm.
I really felt my purpose was still in chiropractic. Well, strange turn of events that my son, who's a chiropractor in Florida, he was inspired to go to chiropractic school, went to Life where you went, and graduated, went down to Fort Myers, bought a practice, and we helped him through that transition. We started marketing together. And it turned out that we were doing really well. And so he had a few friends that said, hey, can you help us out? So we actually started helping them out, and we gathered all the software and all the tools that we needed to do to start running online advertising and getting their message out to people. Well, sure enough, now we have a marketing company and it's growing like a bad weed. So it's, we just keep growing because here's the really interesting thing. And this is, I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions, but I'm so
Oh,
excited
this
about
is
this. So,
good. Keep
so,
going. This is good.
so, um, here's the thing is that there are so many marketing companies that target chiropractors because chiropractors are a viable target. They typically make, good return on patients that come into the office. They make good money. So chiropractors have money. So they're a good potential client for a marketing company. But marketing companies that don't understand chiropractic don't get it.
Mm,
So, coming in as a chiropractor, I understand what it takes to build a busy, high retention based practice to help to educate people about the principle of chiropractic. And that's what we were really good at in practice. So, we've taken those systems and those principles and applied them to our marketing systems. So now we've developed this such a unique system with our marketing system that it's based on everything that we did in practice about telling people about the principle, creating relationships, nurturing through that process, getting them in for their exam, talking to them about their exam findings, the objective outcome, showing them what a subluxation was, how it affects their neurology, how when you have a subluxation, not only can it cause pain, but it can affect the nervous system that can affect other organ systems in your body and really disrupt the innate intelligence that God put in the body, stopping them from becoming the person that God wants them to be. And
mm.
taking that principle and applying it to a marketing system where now we're installing this in an online system for each of our clients' offices so that we can help that client educate that lead, that person through that process. So by the time they actually show up in the office, they have an understanding about what they're coming in for. So the lead then comes in warm, ready to say, this is something that resonates with me, as opposed to the old marketing systems where they bring them in for a low cost, discounted first visit
Mhm.
adjustment, quick fix, kick the tires, fix me, get me out of here. I don't want to pay anything. And this is where I find so many chiropractors are stuck with their marketing systems because marketing companies can get a whole bunch of leads for them, but all these leads come in expecting this low budget, quick fix, pain relief mentality. And that's where the disconnect is.
So it's beautiful. It's quality over low hanging fruit. And it's funny when I was in practice, I always felt very inclined to go out and educate various groups. So those groups would come into the office already educated, and I didn't have to spend time talking to them about their headache, their back pain, or their neck pain, what they would have come in for. But really, they understand that this is about their life, and we dealt with it on that level. I think you're doing the same thing. It's absolutely brilliant, and I want to know more about this program that you're doing with your clients. This it sounds fantastic. And how do you dis, distinguish who gets what type of categories do you have? So you give them the information that they're looking for. How does that work?
So this is interesting because I remember back in the days when we were growing our practice, we sat with our team and we defined our mission statement. And we were very diligent and very intentional of the wording of what our mission statement was. And what we boiled it down to, because we wanted it to be something that was very concise and precise. We said our mission is to educate everybody about the principle of chiropractic. Simple. And we all understood as a team what is the principle of chiropractic? That there is an innate intelligence within us that animates us, that heals us, that allows us to function from the day that we're conceived to the day that we die. And that intelligence runs through the nerves. And if there's a subluxation in the spine, that nervous system is compromised and our ability to adapt to our environment is suppressed in some way. So we just knew as a team that's what people needed to know. So we actually said, okay, I'm not worried about how many people come into the office. This was literally our discussion. I'm not worried about how many new patients we get. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not worried about how much money we make. I'm worried about how many people understand that
Mm,
principle. So we actually hired a full-time marketing person, and this was back in the early 2000s, and we had her for a period of years. And her goal, very simply, was to set up as many talks and as many events. So we had talks at churches, we had talks at companies, lunch and learns, we had dinners, we had makeovers and screenings. And she was there with us along for all of them. That was her full time. So she didn't work in the office. Her job was to connect us in the community. And so we did that for years. And it was the best thing that ever happened. And we went to every event with that intention of sharing the principle. So I said that worked so well for us to help us build our practice. You know, a nice side effect of that was people understanding it. It resonated with them. And I can't tell you how many people would come up to us in the office and say, why hasn't somebody told me this before? I've never heard this philosophy, this thinking before. Why hasn't somebody told me this? And it was like light bulbs. You could see the
mhm.
light bulbs going off in their eyes. So we took that strategy and we applied it to an online marketing system where now we set up for every individual client, we set up all of the online systems, including videos, scripted videos. We have a what we call a video sales letter, which is an initial video that a lead would get explaining to them about the process of subluxation and how it's affecting this is the underlying cause of their symptom. And then we have a welcome letter and a tour of the office, all given to them in little links that they would receive in a text message after they respond to an ad to help warm them up to the idea of coming into the office. So what we're finding is that our clients are getting better engagement from their patients. We're getting better attraction of leads. We're getting better engagement of those leads. We're getting better show rates. And then by the time that those leads actually come into the office, they're warm. They're not looking for a quick fix. They have an idea that this is something to help me to find the root cause of my problem and help me to express my God-given intelligence at a higher level. So it's really been fun because it's a way that I can take my core values and apply them to something practical and technical in an online fashion and help other chiropractors build their practice and get the principle to more people through that portal. So that's been really, really fun to see those results and see our clients just succeed with that. So fulfilling.
As you're sharing this, it's wonderful. And one of the things that come to my mind is in both instances, whether it was your practice that you were building with your marketer or your mission statement or the marketing that you're doing now for chiropractors, there were several principles you were applying. One of them was transparency and authenticity. That's very important, especially these days. That's what people are looking for. But what that leads to, and all this little warm up that you talk about with links, what that's building, believe it or not, is the foundation that all good relationships are built upon, which is trust.
Trust.
They're learning to trust you, and they're looking at the links, and they're looking at your face or the doctor's face, and they're saying, "Wow, we take in so much information empirically, visually, audio, kinesthetically. So we see the doctor's face, say, I like that guy. I think I like what he has to say. I want to hear more. I want to hear another link." And by the time they come into your office, they feel like they know you. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love what a great idea. Excellent concept. Fantastic.
Well, you know what's really interesting about this too is that the majority of chiropractors now in any marketplace are doing some form of online advertising. It's very, very common. Putting ads on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Google, you know. So here's the interesting thing is that without this building of trust, without these systems in place, what happens is the layperson that sees all of these ads, because they're seeing ads from many different chiropractors in their community, what is they're looking at this is chiropractic to them is a commodity. It's just everybody's the same. And so, of course, if I'm looking at chiropractic as a commodity, as a layperson, as a consumer, who am I going to go to? It's the person with the lowest fee. And so essentially, if we don't break that, it's a race to the bottom. And so that's why for many chiropractors, they're so frustrated with their marketing companies and so frustrated with online marketing or Facebook marketing because they're getting such poor results and they're getting these what we call low quality people. Well, the fact is, they're not low quality people. We've just marketed, we're trying to sell something that is outside of our core values and not in line with our what we're trying to deliver. And so really essentially what it is, it's a bait and switch. So putting these systems in place to help build the trust and help people understand exactly who we are as an individual, because I'll be honest, we have clients who are very vitalistic and subluxation based. We have clients that do corrective care. We have clients that do decompression. We have clients that want to focus on neuropathy. So whatever that niche is, we still have to put the systems in place uniquely for each client to build that trust with that person so that they have a good understanding by the time they get into the office of what that chiropractor is delivering.
Outstanding. And I can totally resonate with that, because when I look at the body of my clients as well, they all don't practice the same way. And my job, again, is not to get them to practice my way. My job is to get them to practice the way that they want to practice, doing the best that they can. But it's interesting how you talked about the race to the bottom. And I really I hadn't heard that term, but it's really true what you're saying. We're so desperate for numbers. We're so desperate for this large funnel that we forget that that might be a road to failure. And what I mean by that is this, is that one of the questions that I think our profession has yet to ask itself in 100 years, and I think all professions need to ask themselves these questions, is where have we failed? We have to really take inventory of where we have failed. Why do companies do surveys? They do surveys to find out what everybody thinks. You think every one of those surveys comes back good? No. And if they don't, they're more interested in the bad surveys than they are the good surveys, because they want to know, can we tweak, can we change, can we move in a direction that is going to be better for more people. And I really like what you're doing, because we're sort of in this stupor, this sleep. Chiropractors are in this sort of thing about I got to see everybody. You don't have to see everybody, because your statement about wanting people to understand what you do is more important than adjusting them. I've always said that the adjustment is not as important as the reason for the adjustment. If they understood the reason for the adjustment and also the reason not to adjust, you don't want to adjust everybody, because if they're clear, that's a very bad thing to do, is adjust them. If they don't have a subluxation, we don't adjust. But who's teaching about being clear? Yes, your upper cervical culture is, and they're very good at that, but they're also very marginalized. They're very partitioned out there within the principal aspect of the profession. But what we do in chiropractic is we don't sell being clear. We sell the adjustment. And that's not so good. We sell the adjustment like medical providers when I was a kid would sell the prescription. Well, we can't find anything wrong with you, but take 2 of these. What? That doesn't make sense. So I heard a chiropractor say a couple of years ago, and it blew my mind because I didn't understand it, but now I do. He stood up on the stage and he said, I never want to receive another chiropractic adjustment for the rest of my life. That was his statement. And I was like, what? Like, I thought you loved God. He goes, no, I want to be clear for the rest of my life. Now, that was profound to me. That was profound. So we have to start organizing ourselves in a way that is more honest, that's more authentic, that's more transparent and true to who we are. We locate interference, we remove it, and your body heals. We also want to take the credit. This is another thing. Chiropractors are starved for attention. So it's my technique, it's what I do. And, no, the body was designed to heal itself. You remove the interference. There's no power in a chiropractic adjustment, because if there was, you could adjust a corpse and it would come to life. There is no power. The power is in the people. Let's continue to empower the people. Let's continue to teach them what they have inside of them so they can be well, instead of selling this technical aspect of it. Listen, when I make an adjustment, there's only so much I know, but the body knows far more than I do. So I love what you're doing. It's so exciting. I can't wait for more people to connect with you on this marketing. This strategy is amazing. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, and we could talk about this all day because I love this. And so there's the adage, of course, you can give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but you can teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And that's where I always come back to, if you can teach somebody the principle of chiropractic, they search out chiropractors for the rest of their life because they understand the why behind it. And
Right.
that was one of the things that built our practice. And I remember we used to joke about this. My wife she had the highest retention practice of any chiropractor I know. In fact, she only worked 2 days a week and she would see about 400 people in those 2 days. And in 2 part days, by the way, she was in for one shift on each of those 2 days. There were 2 half days. And she would get upset because she wasn't really getting a lot of new patients. And the staff would say, we don't have room to put new patients into your practice because none of your patients want to leave. You see the same people all time in and time out. And it was really a beautiful thing. We'd laugh about it. It was such a good problem to have. But that was one of the things we talked about. But it's that thinking that we want to bring to the marketplace to help chiropractors put that system into their office to educate people so that ultimately I would love it if chiropractors didn't have to market for new patients, that they could build a practice of people who just wanted to stay, pay, and refer so that they could just not have to worry about spending money on marketing. Ultimately, that would be great. I mean, I'd be out of business, but wow, the profession would advance like crazy if that would be the case. So yeah, so you asked me, how can people get in touch with me? Well, ChiroThrivePracticeSolutions.com. That's our website. We're very active on YouTube. And of course, on the website is my personal information. They can contact me personally. And, I know so many people in the profession. We've been so inundated by people that I'm familiar with and that I've made contacts with and friendships with over the years that want to use our services. We're in a state of such growth. We have to put our infrastructure in place to keep up with the demand of our clients. So this is a great problem to have. I want to get what we deliver out there to as many people as possible. So we're in the process of doing that.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And you've really only been doing this just a couple of years, right?
Not even, yeah, it's been just the better part of a year. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely in a season of favor, and God is blessing you. And I am blessed to have spent this time with you. I thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to ask you a couple of questions. And thanks for just sharing your heart and sharing it is what you do and what you love most in the world, which is your family, God, and chiropractic. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you, my friend, and it's always nice to spend time with you. And anytime I have the opportunity, I'm going to drop everything else I'm doing. So I do appreciate that.
I'll hold you to it then.
All right.